Bud Light is still in the doghouse, a couple shootings raised controversy, and of course, they want to trans your kids without you knowing. That and more on today's After Work podcast. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the After Work podcast. I am sorry for not having a show for you last week, but I had stuff to do. I was out of town in the middle of the desert, and I can't very well, get service all the way out there. Anyway, I am back now, and we have some stories from last week as well as this week. I figured I'd kind of do like a little bit of an in between to catch everyone up, assuming that you haven't heard about certain things. Anyway, uh, I am also not going to be drinking and smoking this time, mostly because, well, I have things to do after this, and, I'm going to be a responsible adult and not drink and drive. So, but with that being said, let's go ahead and hop right into our first story. So, as most of you guys know, there's been a lot of controversy over Bud Light in recent weeks, and I am happy to announce that controversy is still ongoing. The boycott is still in full swing. However, uh, according to CNN, which is definitely the most trusted name in news, um, several Anheuser-Busch facilities received threats last week. Apparently, the police had to do bomb sweeps at two of their facilities. Um, let's see, it says that the Los Angeles Police Department responded to a bomb threat and conducted a sweep of an Anheuser-Busch brewery in the Van Nuys neighborhood last week. So, this was all spurred by the whole Dylan Mulvaney thing. Uh, I'm not saying that, violence is a good thing, okay? I'm not saying that at all. Don't go and bomb breweries, okay? But I am surprised that this didn't happen sooner. Considering the buildup of animosity and the, I guess, radicalization of both sides, I figured something like this was going to happen. I'm just surprised it took, I think we're like 2.5 weeks, maybe 3 weeks into this whole controversy. I expected something like this to happen like after the first week. So, I'm not surprised that all of a sudden some threats went in and something like this happened. Um, I'm not. But I'm saying it's not a good thing. I am, however, saying that it is a good thing that Bush, or rather Bud Light, is still being boycotted. Uh, that's a good thing because what they did was terrible and stupid. Um, Not the fact that they celebrate, um, like Pride, or they, are okay with gay people or whatever like that. That's not the problem. The problem is Dylan Mulvaney is quite obviously not an actual trans person. They, or he, um, doesn't act the way that a person with gender dysphoria actually acts. And it seems like Dylan Mulvaney is just in it for the attention. I mean, this guy has switched between I'm a woman to I'm a little girl, and then back to I'm a woman. Like the week before he did the whole Bud Light thing, he was pretending he was a little girl, like a 6-year-old girl or a teenage girl or something. And then the next week he's promoting like beer. So like, is he promoting beer to children? Like this guy is just really out there. And so I think most people aren't necessarily mad that Bud Light necessarily supports gay rights or anything like that. I think more people are mad about the fact that it seems like that this particular sponsorship is wrapping everything that everybody dislikes about this ideology into one person, and they promoted it all at the same time. So like they promoted like selling beer to children. They promoted the trans agenda and transing your kids and drag and this and that and like all of it all at once. And I think that's what people are more pissed off about than anything else. Not to mention, why is this have what does this have to do with beer? You know what I mean? So I'm not surprised that this is a continuing problem. But now people are starting to get physical and threaten things, and that's not a good thing. Okay, just don't buy the beer. Like you don't have to go and bomb a fucking brewery. Like you don't have to be like, you know what? I don't like this beer. I'm gonna go blow it up. Like if you want to blow up Bud Light, get a couple cans and go out to a shooting range and shoot it. Okay. I actually went to the store the other day. I went to Target because I had to go shopping, and I saw Bud Light just sitting on the shelves, just like a bunch of these videos that you've seen out there. I'm sitting there and I'm like, I just noticed that none of these other beers have this much on the shelf. Now, it wasn't as drastic as like the other videos that you've seen where it's like all the shelves are empty except for the Bud Light. Or I saw one on TikTok where they had moved all of the Bud Light from the back of the store where it usually is all the way to the front next to the coolers to try and sell it. But it was like you could tell the difference. Like it wasn't that obvious, but like because I know about the whole controversy, it's like, huh, like even that's happening around me, and I don't live in the most conservative portion of Texas. So I think that's funny, but that's just me. Now, you know, speaking of trans stuff, apparently, there's a state, I believe it's Washington, wants to trans your kid without you knowing. Yeah. So let's take a look at that story, shall we? So we've got, let me see. Here we go. So Washington bill to allow medical transgender interventions on minors without parental consent. Yeah, if you live in a state like this, get out. Okay? Because this is the type of stuff that leads to mass violence. If you try to come and take my kids, or you try to cut my kids' genitals off without my consent or against mine and my child's will, that's when I'm gonna use my Second Amendment rights. That it is what it is. I would protect my kids at all costs. Now I don't have kids. I'm just saying, if I had kids. So, a Washington state bill that would strip parents' rights to intervene on their kids' medical care in certain circumstances passed the House Wednesday, clearing its pathway to being signed by the governor. An act relating to supporting youth. Okay, they always name these bills stuff that like make it so if you fight against the bill, like you seem like the asshole. It's always just like an act relating to supporting youth. You don't support our youth? It's like, no, I don't support you taking children away from parents and then cutting their genitals off and giving them hormones against the wishes of the parents and permanently putting this child in the category of 40% suicide rate later in life. Like, yeah, I don't think that's supporting children at all. Like, but they name it this crap to like make it so that way if you disagree against it or you vote against it, you're looked at as the bad guy. So Senate Bill 5599 allows host homes for runaway youth to house youth without parental permission. Furthermore, the host homes do not need to notify parents about where their kids are or if they're getting medical interventions. If there is a compelling reason not to, which includes a youth seeking protected health services. The Protected health services included gender affirming care, so genital mutilation, which for minors arbitrarily included anything prescribed by a doctor to treat dysphoria. Gender affirming treatment can be prescribed to two spirit, transgender, non binary, and other gender diverse individuals. That's actually in the bill. That's in the bill. For minors, affirming care typically included puberty blockers, cross sex hormones, and surgeries. It was unclear which services would be approved under the bill. Sounds like all of them. They basically wrote this and were like, yeah, we want to do everything possible to fuck up your children. Yeah, we want to give them. Sorry, guys, I'm stuffy. It's like, yeah, we want to go ahead and not only do we want to kidnap your children, right? And then when the parents ask, where are they? We're just like, I don't know. Not only do they want to kidnap your children, but they also want to start sticking needles in your children, giving them hormones, giving them surgeries. And apparently, I don't know if there's an age limit on this, but I don't think there is. So, like an 8-year-old who's just like, my mom didn't give me a cookie, wah, and like runs out the door and runs away to their friend's house or whatever. Theoretically, they can be put into one of these, host homes because they ran away. Parents call the police because they don't know where their kid is, and now the police basically just either pretend like the investigation is going on even though they find the kid, or they say, oh, well, we found your child, well, we can't return them to you. Like, what the what? And then the parents have to go and try and legally get this kid back. All the while, the kid is getting unnecessary and unwanted medical intervention for stuff because kids are impressionable, and the host home could have just been like, oh, hey, little Jimmy here, do you like dolls? They're like, yeah. And then and then they're just like, oh, well, you're a girl, let's go to the doctor. And then it's like, wait, hold on, because I like dolls, we have to go to the doctor? Why? It's like, to cut your dick off. Like, what? All behind the parents' back. Yeah, so this is what that bill does. So if you live in Washington, I would suggest getting the hell out. Go somewhere else. Or at the very least, writing to the governor and saying, no, not having this. So, reading on. Another compelling reason not to notify parents and kids staying in a host home was circumstances that indicate notifying the parents or legal guardian will subject the minor to abuse or neglect. So, the bill was criticized by opponents for being child abuse, because it is. So they're sitting here saying, the reason that we won't tell the parents is because they might be subject to abuse or neglect. Their definition of abuse and neglect is leaving the penis on the child. That's their definition of abuse or neglect. It's like, oh yeah, we don't want to cut off your body parts. That is theirs. But cutting the body parts off and altering a child who knows nothing about sex beforehand, making it to the point where they might not ever be able to have sex in the future, that's not child abuse. What? How do we live in such a backward world? Look, after you're 18, I don't give a fuck what you do. I don't care what you do. I don't care, as long as it doesn't hurt me or force me to do anything. I don't care what you do, right? If you're gay, I don't care, okay? Just don't come on to me. That's all I'm asking, right? If you are trans and you want to cut whatever you want off and do this, and that, fine. After you're 18, I don't care. I don't agree with it, and I don't think you should. And quite honestly, I think it's wrong, but it's your body. I don't care what you do with it, right? Just like people who, get tattoos all over their face and fork their tongues and then put a freaking nose ring in and then like tattoo their eyeball. Like, that's your choice. I don't care what you do. You look weird. You look like an alien, and I don't understand how you have a job. But hey, that's your prerogative. But when it comes to children, before you're 18, you can't you can't have a gun. You can't vote. You can't go and get a drink. And hell, you can't even do that at 18, really. You can't sign up for the military. You can't enter into contracts. You can't for any other medical procedure. You cannot consent. But for this, that's fine. That makes absolutely no sense. It makes zero sense whatsoever. And I don't know how anybody justifies it, to be honest. So, so the opposition said, according to the bill's texts, a parent's job is to protect their child. This bill strips parents of that ability. Gender is in your imagination. This bill legalizes the kidnapping of children, allows for the harboring of minors, and segregates us from the union. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it basically legalizes kidnapping. And it, it's all around just insane. After it passed the House, Democrat Tana Sen, who supported the bill, said, "I am saying to what'd she say? I said I am saying tonight to them that I see you, that I affirm you, that I hear you, that I love you." Who's them? Who's them? Are you talking to one person? Or are you talking to a bunch of people? Because, like, you might have just misgendered somebody. We don't know. That's the problem with this whole ideology is, like, legitimately she could have just, like, actually done that. What is it? Senate Republican leader John Braun blasted the bill, saying the only thing the bill would do is cause harm by driving a wedge between vulnerable kids and their parents, at a time when a teen lacks the perception and judgment to make critical life-altering decisions. A parent may not even know why the child ran away and could involve law enforcement or other groups in a desperate search, all the while going through the unnecessary emotional nightmare, imagining the worst about what might have happened. So, basically, this is ridiculous and shouldn't be a thing. So if you're in Washington, I would suggest getting your kids out, because after it passes, because it's probably going to pass, because the governor's probably going to sign it, you're not going to be safe, your kids aren't going to be safe, and there's not going to be a point to calling the police, because the police won't do anything, because their hands will be tied based on this law. Anyway, guys, so speaking of police and their inability or incompetence, we have a story of police incompetence. So, basically, police shot and killed a guy who committed no crime, didn't even know that police were there, because they had the wrong house. So, video shows Farmington police realized they had the wrong house moments before killing the man who came to the door with a gun. Right? So, seconds before Robert Dotson opened his front door, Farmington police officers realized they were at the wrong house. The officers chuckle at the mix-up between 5305 and 5308 Valley View Drive. But then they back away as Dotson comes to the door, shining a blinding light on him. Dotson gets the screen door half open and begins to raise a gun when police open fire, and he quickly falls to the ground. Within a minute, his wife can be heard screaming, and an officer mutters under his breath, "Please don't," before police trade gunshots with the woman, missing her. The gunfire stops, and the officers tell the wife, "This is the police department. We're here to help you." The woman yells back in anguish, "Please help. Somebody shot my husband," apparently unaware the officers were responsible. Now, I watched this video, and it's disturbing, because it goes to show that police incompetence can get you killed, and that you have no right, essentially, to keep and bear arms in this in this country, because if you go to utilize your firearms correctly, you'll be murdered by the police, because that's what this was. Okay, maybe not murder, but at least manslaughter, because this guy's dead. Okay, the police knew they were at the wrong address. Guy comes out with a gun, and instead of yelling to him, "Hey, we're the police, we're the police, we're the police," did you just fucking shoot him? Right? Like, it's not funny, but I just find it funny that these officers probably won't be held accountable. In my opinion, if police go to the wrong home and shoot and kill somebody, regardless of whether or not that person attacked them, if that person didn't know they were cops and was not under the impression that the police were at their place, like this guy was, and that person is killed by the police, every officer that fired their weapon and struck him should be put in prison for the maximum sentence available. This is the problem with the way qualified immunity currently runs. I'm not saying that qualified immunity is necessarily a bad thing, because I understand that it protects police from frivolous lawsuits that would basically make it incapable for them, or make them incapable of doing their job, because they'd always be brought into court on just BS from every encounter that they have. But qualified immunity is currently way too broad, in the fact that anybody who does anything as a police officer basically gets off scot-free. These officers are probably going to get off on this. Not only did they kill this man, they assaulted the wife as well, right? So, this isn't something that should be tolerated, right? Because I think there's two states, I think Texas is one of them, that if you don't know it's police and like they bust in your door and they don't have a warrant, they have no reason to be there, and you shoot and kill an officer or whatever, then you're in the clear. And quite honestly, this guy, that's basically the scenario that this was. I mean, they come in the middle of the night, you're asleep. You hear banging on the door that wakes you up, but you're asleep. So you don't necessarily comprehend or hear the banging itself, right? Like, you're just woken up. And you're like, what was that? Because they bang on the door, they yell police, but you don't hear that. That's what wakes you up. So you didn't hear it, your brain just kind of turned on at noise. So now you're like groggy, you're like, what is going on? And then you hear bang, 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 bang again, but this time they don't say anything. Now they're standing out there talking about, is this the wrong address? I feel like this is the wrong address. While you're in the house going, who's banging on my door? Like, is somebody trying to break into my house right now? Because, like, they might be trying to bust down the door. Let me get my gun. So you grab your gun, and your mission is protect your wife, right? Your mission is protect everyone else inside the house. You're the man. You are the protector. So you go to the front door. You open the door. But you can't see anything because there is a huge, basically, spotlight shining in your face. So your only course of action is, I don't know who these people are. I don't know what they're doing banging on my door, and I can't see anything because there's a huge light in front of me. I feel threatened, so I'm going to protect my house, my wife. And he starts to lift the pistol. All the while, these police who have the upper hand because they have the light on this guy, and he can't necessarily see anything, could get out of the way. They could hide behind the corner of the house, and they could yell, "Where the police? Where the police? Please put the gun down." But no. First thing they do is bang, 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 bang. Shoot the guy. Fucking kill him outright. After the guy is shot, the wife, who's probably like back inside the house, back in the house, sees her husband get shot and go down, has no idea what's going on, but, oh, my husband's shot. I need to protect him now. He tried. It's my turn. Goes and picks up the gun, because what else is she going to do? And then the cops shoot at her. Mind you, at no point during this interaction have they said that they're the police. Except for like way early in the beginning when the people inside were asleep and wouldn't have heard it. So they start shooting at the woman. They're like, "Hey, don't do that," and they shoot. Woman's confused. She doesn't know what's going on. All she knows is her husband just got shot, and there's somebody who shot him outside the front door. Then the police finally alert her, "Hey, we're the police, we're the police." And now she's like, what'd she say? "Please help, somebody shot my husband." She doesn't know that it was the cops that shot her husband, so the husband probably doesn't even know that it was the cops that shot him. And now, this lady is a widow. This man is dead. All because these cops couldn't read a fucking address. And because they have happy trigger fingers. I don't think that police, in situations like this, should be allowed to fire in self-defense. They fucked up. It's their fuck up. Get out of the way of the bullets, but you're not allowed to shoot an innocent person because you messed up. That simple. He was legally within his right to protect his house and his home. Now, mind you, he didn't actually shoot at the officers. If he had actually shot, maybe the legality of it would have changed. But simply thinking there's a threat and showing a gun, I don't believe that that's out of the realm of reasonable. Especially in the middle of the night when you don't know who it is. So I hope that these officers are charged and convicted of manslaughter. And I hope that the widow sues for as much money as she can get so she can live the rest of her days without having to work, without having to worry about anything. Because her husband is dead. And he didn't do anything wrong. Now, the only thing that I think that he might have done wrong is that he walked outside of his house with a gun. Not because that in it of itself is inherently wrong, but because I myself would not exit my locked home with a gun. I'd wait until somebody busted in, right? Like, I'm not volunteering to leave my home where I have the upper hand to open the door, to go outside. I don't even need to open the door to see who's out there. Like, most doors have peepholes. You have windows in the front of your house. Like, I wouldn't go outside. But you're tired. You're not thinking right. You open the door. You have a gun in your hand just in case. It is what it is. So I would advise people not to go outside in an instance like this, even if you think that it's a bad guy, because there's not really a reason to do it strategically. Stay behind the locked door, and if you think it's a burglar, just call the police, because you'll either find out that it is a burglar and the police will come, or you'll find out that it's the cops that were there, and at no point did you put yourself in any danger because you went outside. So I'm not blaming this guy for getting shot and killed because he didn't necessarily do anything wrong. I'm just saying that there's a smarter way to go about dealing with something like that in the middle of the night. And unfortunately, this ended differently. However, we have a similar story. Um, we it's not really similar in the fact that it involves police or anything, but again, there's another story that involves a shooting where uh, somebody didn't use their better judgment, I guess. So we have another story here. Let me bring it up for you guys. Andrew Lester, 84-year-old Kansas City man, accused of shooting Ralph Yarl. So, an 84-year-old Kansas City man accused of shooting a black teenager who mistakenly rang the doorbell at the wrong home surrendered to police. He's charged with shooting Ralph Yarl and has surrendered into custody. He was charged Monday with first-degree assault and armed criminal action. Both are felonies, and shooting Thursday night of Ralph Yarl. Lester was released Tuesday evening after he posted bail, which had been set at $200,000. Yarl, 16, had gone to the wrong address to pick up his siblings around 10 p.m., and he was shot through a glass door after he rang the doorbell, according to a probable cause statement filed by police. Lester told investigators that he had gone to bed when the doorbell rang, and that he went to the door armed with a .32 caliber Smith & Wesson. He said Lester said he saw a black male he didn't know pulling on the exterior storm door handle and thought his home was being broken into. He said he fired twice through the glass door. Then the man ran away, and he used his phone to dial 911. He said he saw a car in the driveway of his home that he believed belonged to the male, but didn't see anyone inside. No words were exchanged. Lester said firing his weapon was the last thing he wanted to do, but he was scared to death because of his age and the male's size. Lester said he lives alone. A police detective wrote in the probable cause statement that he noticed the security system in the home and took the hard drive to preserve any evidence, but later found the equipment had last captured video in June and was no longer functional. So, on the same track as the last shooting, this man actually didn't go outside. He chose to stay inside of his house. But again, this man made the mistake of shooting. Right? Now, I'm not saying that it was a complete mistake because he's 84. Right? An 84-year-old is frail. Can't really move. So let's say Ralph, who, I'm not saying that he was breaking into the house, but let's just say, for the sake of argument, that he was trying to break into the house, right? Let's say he gets in through the door. He's stronger, bigger, faster than the old man. The old man might get one or two shots off before he gets on top of him. And if he's not accurate and he misses, now he's getting beat up and possibly killed by a home invader, right? So I can see from the frame of mind of the 84-year-old where he would be like, okay, I think he's breaking in, and if he gets in here, that's it. I'm done. Even with this gun, I'm gonna have problems. So I need to shoot now because I'm in fear of my life. But on the flip side of that, me as a normal rational person, I wouldn't have shot through my door because there's a barrier between me and that person. I could have called out and been like, hey, who are you? What are you doing here? Blah, 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 blah. Maybe the old man doesn't have a voice that carries. Maybe he just was frozen with fear and couldn't say anything, because that does happen. And so this kid might have just been going up to the wrong house, right? This kid didn't seem to be actually trying to break it, right? I can see from the kid's perspective. Okay, I'm going to pick up my siblings. They're at this house, and I ring the doorbell. Not really an answer, and so you go to open the storm door, which is different normally from the actual door to the house. So like you open the storm door, it's usually a screen door. You open that, and then you knock on the door because that's usually louder than the doorbell sometimes. So if you go to open the storm door and it's not opening, and you're like, what the you're like, why is this not opening? If you're not thinking about it, like if you're not thinking, oh, I'm at the wrong address, you're just thinking you're at wherever you are, maybe a friend's house, maybe a relative's house. You're like, why is the storm door broken? It's not working. What the, I've tried to do that with multiple doors, but like when my friend asks me to watch his house, sometimes I'll go over there and my key doesn't always work correctly, the first time, and I'm pulling on the door like, why is this not opening? So I can see how in Ralph's mind it would be like, why is the storm door not opening, right? So I can see both sides. I can see how Ralph is like, I'm just at this house and the storm door is not opening. Doesn't necessarily mean I'm at the wrong place. But I can see where the 84-year-old is like, yo, there's someone I don't know outside my door trying to bust in my house because he's rattling my door. He's trying to get in. And I'm an old, weak, frail man. All around, I don't think necessarily either side was in the wrong. I think it's a unfortunate meeting of two circumstances where something bad happened. Because it's just it sometimes stuff like that happens. So this kid got shot. Thankfully, it seems like he's gonna be okay. So he didn't die. Um, I believe he went to the hospital and he's in recovery. So that's good. The old man is charged. I'm hoping that he's not criminally charged because I don't think I very much doubt, absent any other evidence, that he intended to shoot this kid just cause. I think he was actually scared and like, oh my gosh. And also, Joe Biden told people to shoot through a door, so he was just taking Joe Biden's advice. But you know that is, but that's just it's unfortunate. A lot of people were pissed off about this, and it's like, dude, y'all are attributing it to like race or something when it could easily just be a simple mistake, simple misunderstanding. Speaking of guns, however, of course, the ATF is up to its old shenanigans. So the ATF is back to its old shenanigans and trying to screw people over, and it may be doing something that it's not legally allowed to do. But then again, that's for the courts to figure it out. So my home state of Texas apparently has been goaded into giving information to the ATF. So, Texas secretly gives its citizens' incomes to the ATF. Documents show this has led to at least one person being monitored by the feds without a warrant through the federal gun background check system. The Texas Workforce Commission told the Epic Times that it has written contracts with ATF for sharing income information for criminal investigations. The revelation may lead to oversight by the legislature, as it should. You should not have your information given to any law enforcement agency, investigation agency, or any other government agency without a warrant. Period. And it's quite troubling that a red state like Texas would do something like this as it relates to firearms. Texas Texas State Rep Kane a Republican, is deeply troubled about this coordination with the state's unemployment agency and federal government. My office will be looking into whether the Texas Workforce Commission is assisting the ATF in the Biden administration's mission to violate the constitutional rights of law abiding citizens. In one of the documents, an ATF agent emailed the FBI that a person suspected of straw purchasing or firearms trafficking needed to be put into the gun background check database. The agent wrote that per TWC, the man's reported wage earnings with the state of Texas do not appear to supply the financial means to afford the firearms purchased. That doesn't mean anything. You know how your wage earnings, reported wage earnings, doesn't mean shit. For instance, a lot of independent contractors might not report all of their earnings until the end of the year when tax season comes around. And if it's the first year that they are an independent contractor, they might make 70, 80, $90,000, but the actual like W-2 job that they have is only, a $30,000 a year job. So they're walking away with $120,000 a year, but only 30 of it's actually being reported throughout the year until you hit tax season, right? And then if it's the first year, then there's gonna be no pattern. So you can go to the year prior where it's like, okay, they made 30 this year, 30 this year, so they're on track to make 30 this year. But their wage situation might have changed, right? Number one. Number two, does anybody report money that they get as a gift? Like I don't know anybody who reports money they get for Christmas, for birthdays, money they get in gift cards, right? And as far as I know, I don't think that the payment method by which you pay for these things is necessarily tracked, whether it's cash, card, or gift card. So like if somebody got a gift card for like say, I don't know, like rodeo gun shop or whatever, right? And they go to this gun shop and they pay for like 5 guns, right? And half of it was on gift cards. Does that show up? Or is it that it just shows that as a transaction with this person's name on it? Like, there's so many other reasons aside from somebody straw purchasing why their wages would not match up to supply the financial means to afford the item to afford the firearms purchased. Just another example. Say you own 3 cars, right? And you're a single dude like me. You don't need 3 cars, right? Say you own them outright because, 6 or 7 years ago you had, you had the money to buy all these cars. Now you've got 2 cars that are still worth a decent amount of money. You sell them, right? For cash cars out the door, right? And you've got $10,000-$15,000 now of cash, and you specifically sold the cars because you wanted to buy guns, right? And then you turn around and you either deposit this cash or you go and you pay in cash. Either way, your name is going through the background check system for each individual gun, right? So now, now the fucking FBI and the ATF are looking at you like, oh, this guy, where'd he get all this money? It's got to be something illegal. It's got to be something illegal. We're gonna illegally monitor this guy without a warrant because there's only one instance out of like 100 that this might be illegal, so it's probably illegal. No, what? Like that's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. So the ATF agent requested on December 28th, 2020, that the Texans' gun purchases be monitored daily for 90 days. However, as previously reported, the FBI wrote to ATF that its agents could request an extension of the monitoring for as long as they wanted. So basically, the ATF could just be like, "Hey, FBI, just extend it at the end of the 90 days, just extend it again for 90 days for the rest of his life." Essentially, no warrant, no nothing. They just decide we're going to monitor this guy. Texas's role in the program was uncovered in the ATF's ninth production of documents to GOA as part of a FOIA Freedom of Information Act lawsuit. The 42 pages are more heavily redacted than the previous ones. There are 7 pages of blacked out information before the source of the income of the person in Texas is shown as TWC. One would think that a pro-gun state like Texas would not be handing over gun owners confidential financial information to the feds without a warrant or likely even without probable cause. Yeah, I agree. That's ridiculous. So, yeah. This is insane that Texas is the one doing this type of thing. I don't understand it. There's, again, like I said, there's so many different reasons why somebody would not, their wage would not match their financial means, right? Because let's just say another example. So this guy, let's say he's got a girlfriend, right? Let's say that legally he's single, right? He has filed all of his taxes single. And they're just investigating his income, right? Because they're going to the Texas Wage Commission. They're not going to his bank and asking for information, right? So who's to say that he doesn't have a joint bank account with his girlfriend who makes more than him, or allows him to use some of her funds to buy whatever he wants? Right? What if he's got a joint bank account with his father, with his mother, with whoever, right? The Wage Commission is only going to see what he brings in based on his job, not necessarily all these other avenues by which he can acquire other funds to fund these firearm purchases, right? I'm just saying, there's so many different examples of why this guy might be able to actually afford these guns that has nothing to do with how much money he makes. Not to mention, credit cards exist. You know how many credit cards somebody can have and charge up even when they don't have the means to pay them off? How do you think people get in credit card debt? Like me. Okay, I'm not that far in credit card debt, but like I've done that where I wanted a new gun. I didn't have the money to buy it cash because, again, I didn't have the financial means to outright purchase the gun at the moment. So I went to my credit card and bought it on my credit card. Who's to say that this guy doesn't have a credit card with a credit limit of $10,000-$15,000, and he was just like, you know what, I want a bunch of these guns, and he went and bought it. Just saying. I'm not saying that this guy isn't straw purchasing, and I'm not saying that he is not doing something illegal. What I'm saying is they need to get a warrant with probable cause as to why it cannot be any of the other examples that I listed, and has to be something illegal. As far as I'm concerned, there's no probable cause. There's no reason why they should be going after this guy and doing that. And mind you, this isn't just about this one guy. Like, they have access to everyone. So, like, if I went and I bought 5 guns in a row today, they might start looking at me. Just because. And I can tell you right now, they'd be like, whoa, how is he affording all of this? Because I don't make nearly enough to be able to go and afford 5 new guns today. But I have credit cards. I have uh, money that I put away into investments that I could pull out. And that wouldn't show up necessarily as a wage or money that's given to me from my employer. Just saying. They would have to go to my bank and get all that information about all the transactions in order to find where the money came from. But if they're just going based off what the wage commission is saying and how much I make a year, they'd be like, oh man, this guy is doing something illegal, when in fact I did absolutely nothing illegal. So, with that, I think we'll go ahead and end it here today, guys. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate all of you guys who actually, put up with watching me. I don't know how you do it. I can barely stand listening to myself while I edit these videos. And go ahead and tell me what you think about this stuff. Let me know what do you think on the trans issues. What do you think about the police issues? What do you think about this if you live in Texas? What do you think about this Texas crap? Go ahead and drop a comment down below. Like the video and subscribe if you would like to see more after work podcasts in the future, or if you want to watch my previous ones as well. And with that, I will see you next time.